Dr. Keitha Morvain pressed her palm against the cool metal surface of the containment chamber, feeling the subtle vibrations that told her everything had changed. Inside the spherical vessel, reality itself bent and twisted in ways that should have been impossible, defying every law of physics she had spent 30 years studying. The quantum field generators hummed with an energy signature that made her instruments scream warnings, yet the readings were undeniably stable. "Run the calculations again," she whispered to her assistant, Riven Ashworth, whose pale hands trembled as he manipulated the holographic displays floating between them. The laboratory aboard the research station Prometheus had become a cathedral of discovery, its walls lined with equipment that pushed the boundaries of human engineering beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Riven's voice cracked as he spoke. "Professor, the numbers don't lie. We've created a zone where space-time becomes locked. Nothing can alter the fundamental constants within a 50-meter radius. No faster-than-light travel, no energy weapons, no exotic matter manipulation. It's as if we've created a bubble of absolute physical law." The implications crashed over Keitha like a tidal wave. For centuries, humanity had been the newcomers to galactic civilization, struggling to catch up with alien empires that had mastered technologies beyond human comprehension. The Veltar had weapons that could disintegrate matter at the molecular level. The Zephyrian Collective could fold space like origami, appearing anywhere in the galaxy instantaneously. The Hexapod Dominion controlled gravitational fields with the casual ease of a child playing with toys. But now, in this sterile laboratory floating in the void between stars, humanity had stumbled upon something that could render all of those advantages meaningless. "Keitha." Admiral Zephyr Caldrus's voice echoed through the chamber's communication system, her tone carrying the weight of command and barely contained excitement. "I'm seeing some interesting readings from your section. Please tell me you haven't accidentally created a black hole." Keitha laughed, a sound tinged with hysteria and wonder. "Nothing so mundane, Admiral. We've created something far more dangerous." She gestured toward the containment field, where space itself rippled like water disturbed by a stone. "We've learned how to make the universe rigid." The Admiral materialized as a hologram, her weathered features sharp with intelligence and concern. Caldrus had fought in the border wars against the Veltar, had seen human colonies reduced to cosmic dust by weapons that humanity couldn't even begin to understand. She understood better than most what technological superiority meant in the vast arena of galactic politics. "Explain it to me like I'm a fighter pilot, Doctor." Keitha moved to the central console, her fingers dancing across controls that felt warm beneath her touch. "Imagine reality as a flexible fabric that can be stretched, folded, and manipulated. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy has built their technology around bending that fabric to their will. But we've discovered how to make it immutable, unchangeable. Within our field, the laws of physics become absolute. And outside the field? Outside, everything works normally. But anything trying to enter or function within our sphere of influence finds their exotic technologies simply stop working. A Veltar disintegration beam becomes nothing more than colored light. A Zephyrian fold space drive would fail catastrophically if it tried to activate within our field." Admiral Caldrus was quiet for a long moment, her expression cycling through understanding, amazement, and something that might have been fear. "How large can you make this field?" Tormund Vex, the chief engineer who had been silently monitoring the conversation, stepped forward. His massive frame seemed to fill the laboratory as he spoke in his characteristic rumble. "Theoretically? With enough power we could stabilize spacetime across entire solar systems. Maybe larger." The implications hung in the air between them like a storm waiting to break. In the space of a few hours, humanity had gone from being a minor player in galactic affairs to possessing a technology that could fundamentally alter the balance of power. Not by creating better weapons or faster ships, but by making all weapons and ships equal to their most basic, primitive forms. Riven's instruments chimed softly, drawing their attention to a new reading. "Professor, we're picking up some unusual quantum signatures from the outer system. Long-range sensors are detecting visitors." Admiral Caldrus's expression hardened into the mask of command. "What kind of visitors?" "Unknown configuration, but the energy signatures match no known human vessels. Multiple contacts approaching from different vectors." Keitha felt ice form in her stomach. "They're already watching us." The laboratory fell silent except for the steady hum of the reality stabilization field, a sound that now seemed less like scientific achievement and more like the tolling of a bell. Whatever they had discovered in this remote corner of space, it had not gone unnoticed by the powers that shaped the galaxy. And those powers were coming to investigate. Outside the viewports, stars that had shone steadily for millennia seemed to flicker with new uncertainty. The first alien vessel materialized 3 days later, its serpentine hull gleaming with the characteristic bioluminescent patterns of the Veltar hegemony. Keitha watched from the observation deck as the massive ship, easily 10 times the size of their research station, maintained a cautious distance, its sensor arrays sweeping across the Prometheus like the gaze of a predator evaluating prey. "They're being remarkably polite," Admiral Caldrus observed, standing beside her with arms crossed. "Usually, the Veltar simply appear wherever they please and start making demands." Tormund's heavy footsteps approached from behind. "Maybe they can't. Maybe they tried to fold space directly to us and found themselves unable to complete the transition." His voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. "The field's influence extends farther than we initially calculated." Dr. Morvain studied the readings flowing across her tablet, each data point confirming what she had hoped and feared. "The stabilization effect is expanding. Slowly but measurably. It's not just a static field, it's growing like a crystal forming in supersaturated solution." The communication array crackled to life, carrying a transmission in the flowing, musical language of the Veltar. The universal translator struggled with the complex harmonic patterns before settling on a rough approximation. "Humans of the research vessel. This is Warsinger Nexith of the hegemony ship Throat of Eternity. We request immediate conference regarding your unusual activities." Admiral Caldrus keyed the response channel. "Warsinger Nexith, this is Admiral Caldrus of the Terran Research Station Prometheus. We're conducting authorized scientific research within human space. State your business." The pause that followed stretched long enough for Keitha to count her own heartbeats. When the response came, the translator's mechanical voice couldn't hide the underlying tension. "Admiral Caldrus, we have detected emanations that threaten the fundamental stability of local spacetime. The Hegemony Council demands immediate cessation of all research activities and full disclosure of your methodologies." Demands? Keitha felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. After 3 centuries of being told what humanity could and couldn't do, where they could and couldn't go, what technologies they could and couldn't develop, after being treated as primitive children by species that had mastered the stars when Earth was still cooling, the aliens were making demands again. "Respectfully declined, Warsinger," Caldrus replied, her voice carrying the steel of someone who had faced down Veltar battle fleets before. "Our research continues under Terran authority." Riven's console erupted in alerts. "Admiral, we've got multiple contacts dropping out of FTL. Zephyrian signatures, hexapod configurations, and something else. Something big." The viewports revealed a gathering storm. Ships from across the galaxy materialized in the system, each maintaining careful distances from both the Prometheus and each other. The sleek geometric forms of Zephyrian vessels hung like crystalline sculptures against the star field. Hexapod bioships pulsed with organic rhythms, their living hulls undulating in patterns that suggested barely contained aggression. And something else, a vessel that seemed to exist only as a suggestion, a distortion in space that bent light around its edges. Keitha had never seen anything like it, but the energy readings made her equipment scream in harmonics that hurt to hear. Entity Lumino 7 of the Consciousness Collective requests immediate direct interface. The communications array announced in tones that bypassed the ears entirely and spoke directly to the mind. "The disturbance you have created threatens the quantum substrate of reality itself." Admiral Caldrus turned to Keitha, her expression grim. "Doctor, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with here. Can this field be weaponized?" Keitha felt the weight of the galaxy's attention pressing down on her. Through the viewports, she could see running lights from dozens of alien vessels, each representing a civilization that had treated humanity as a curiosity at best, a threat to be contained at worst. Now they hung in space like vultures, waiting to see what the primitive humans had stumbled upon. "Not weaponized exactly," she said slowly. "But Admiral, if we can stabilize spacetime across a large enough area, we level the playing field," Tormund rumbled. "No more superior alien technology. No more exotic physics. Just ships and weapons that obey the same rules everyone learned in basic physics class." The implications sent ripples through the small group. Humanity's greatest weakness had always been their late arrival to galactic civilization. While other species had millennia to develop reality-bending technologies, humans had barely mastered interstellar travel. But in a zone where physics became absolute, where exotic matter behaved like normal matter and faster-than-light travel became impossible, human engineering, robust, reliable, and built for real-world conditions, might not just compete with alien technology. It might dominate it. They know, Keitha whispered, watching the alien fleet maneuver in careful patterns around their position. They know what this means. Another transmission cut through the communications array, this one carrying harmonics that made the station's hull vibrate. Humans. This is Hive General Zythus of the Hexapod Dominion. Your actions threaten the established order of galactic civilization. Comply with immediate shutdown or face collective response. Admiral Caldrus smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. I think it's time to show them exactly what human engineering can accomplish. Ambassador Zirithka had lived for 3 centuries, long enough to witness the rise and fall of stellar empires, the birth of new species into galactic consciousness, and the endless dance of diplomacy that kept the galaxy from tearing itself apart. But as his bioship Silence of Depths held position in the growing alien fleet, he felt something he had not experienced in decades: genuine uncertainty. The reports from his science cast made little sense. According to their instruments, the human research station existed within a bubble of space where the fundamental constants of reality had become locked, fixed, immutable. It was as if the humans had discovered how to reach into the quantum foundation of existence and declare here and no farther. Warsinger, the implications trouble me greatly, he transmitted to the Veltar vessel maintaining position to his starboard. If the humans can expand this effect, then every advantage we possess becomes meaningless. Nexitha's response carried the bitter harmonics of a warrior forced to contemplate defeat without battle. My disintegration cannons read as simple photon emitters within their influence zone. My ship's fold space drive would tear itself apart if I attempted activation. Across the growing fleet, similar conversations echoed through quantum communication networks. The Zephyrian Admiral Crystalline Edge reported that their space-folding technology simply refused to function within the expanding zone of influence. Hive General Zythus's bioweapons read as inert organic matter when subjected to scans from within the affected area. Most disturbing of all was the report from Entity Luminos 7, one of the Consciousness Collective's most advanced members. The being of pure energy had attempted to project itself into the human station's vicinity and found its very existence threatened, forced back into crude matter-based sensors and communication arrays like some primitive biological organism. This cannot be allowed to continue, Hive General Zythus broadcast across all channels, the chittering undertones of his speech carrying barely controlled aggression. The humans have stumbled upon something that threatens the very foundation of galactic civilization. Ambassador Zirithka felt his gill slits flutter with nervous energy. The Hexapod General was not wrong, but his solution, immediate military action, carried its own dangers. General, consider the implications. If their field can neutralize our weapons, what hope would we have in direct assault? The field cannot extend indefinitely. We destroy their research station before it grows beyond manageable limits. And if that very action accelerates its expansion? Or if they have other stations, other research facilities? The humans have proven resourceful. Entity Luminos 7's mental voice cut through their debate like a blade of pure thought. Analysis indicates the field operates on principles of quantum state fixation. The humans have not simply discovered new technology, they have found a way to make reality itself resist change. This could theoretically be expanded to encompass entire star systems, entire sectors. The silence that followed this pronouncement stretched across the fleet like a plague. Each species represented in the gathered vessels had built their power on their mastery of exotic physics, their ability to bend the fundamental forces of the universe to their will. The Veltar weaponized quantum uncertainty. The Zephyrians folded spacetime like origami. The Hexapods bred living ships that violated conservation of energy. The Consciousness Collective existed as patterns of organized energy that transcended physical law. All of it would become useless within the human sphere of influence. Warsinger Nexithus transmission carried the harmonics of grim realization. We may be witnessing the end of our age. If the humans can stabilize spacetime across significant regions, they become the dominant force in the galaxy not through superior technology, but by making all technology equally primitive. Aboard the research station Prometheus, Dr. Keitha Morvain watched the alien fleet with growing fascination. Her instruments detected energy signatures unlike anything in human databases, weapons and drives that operated on principles humanity had barely begun to understand. And yet, as each vessel approached the expanding edge of their field, she saw those same exotic signatures falter and fade. The field is definitely growing, she reported to Admiral Caldrus. Current expansion rate suggests it will encompass the entire system within approximately 47 days. Tormund looked up from his engineering console, his expression troubled. Professor, I'm seeing some concerning readings from the field generators. The power requirements are increasing exponentially. We're drawing energy from the station's primary fusion plants, the backup antimatter reserves, even the emergency chemical batteries. Where is the energy going? That's just it, it's not being consumed. It's being converted. Transformed into something that maintains the quantum state lock across an ever-widening area. It's like the field is feeding on energy to make itself stronger, more stable. Admiral Caldress joined them at the central console, her expression grim. Doctor, I need you to be completely honest with me. Can we shut this down if we need to? Keitha stared at the swirling patterns within the containment chamber, where reality itself danced to humanity's tune. The question hung in the air like a sword over their heads, because she wasn't entirely certain of the answer. I don't know, she admitted. The field has achieved a level of stability that suggests it might be self-sustaining. We might have created something that will continue to grow regardless of our intervention. Outside the viewports, the alien fleet continued to gather, their positions carefully calculated to remain outside the field's influence while maintaining tactical advantage. But Keitha could see the uncertainty in their formations, the way they maintained distances from each other that suggested fear rather than cooperation. They were afraid. The most powerful civilizations in the galaxy were afraid of what humanity had stumbled upon. And perhaps, Keitha thought as she watched the field readings climb steadily upward, they had good reason to be. Director Nia Blackthorne materialized in the station's conference room as a high-resolution hologram, her image transmitted across 17 light-years from Earth's orbital government complex. Her dark skin bore the ritual scars of the Martian diplomatic corps, and her eyes held the weariness of someone who had spent decades navigating the treacherous waters of interspecies politics. Admiral Caldress, Dr. Morvain, she began without preamble, we have a situation that goes far beyond your research station. 3 hours ago, Ambassador Zirith Ka requested an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The agenda has one item: humanity's immediate expulsion from galactic civilization. Keitha felt the blood drain from her face. Expulsion from the Galactic Council meant isolation, trade embargoes, and the very real possibility of military action against human colonies scattered across the outer spiral arm. Director, our research is within established parameters, Admiral Caldress protested. We're operating in human space, using resources allocated by the Terran Science Authority. Which matters exactly zero to species that view your discovery as an existential threat. Blackthorne's expression hardened. I've been in emergency sessions for the past 18 hours. The Veltar are claiming you've violated the Treaty of Cosmic Stability. The Zephyrians argue that your field constitutes an aggressive expansion into contested space. The Consciousness Collective is calling it an attack on the quantum substrate of reality itself. Tormund's low growl filled the conference room. Sounds like a bunch of scared empires trying to maintain their technological advantages. Which is exactly what they are, Blackthorne agreed. But they're scared empires with the power to glass every human world in the galaxy. Dr. Morvain, I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Can this field be contained? Can it be reversed? Keitha pulled up her latest readings, the data painting a picture that grew more complex by the hour. The field has achieved what appears to be a cascading quantum resonance. Each cubic meter of stabilized space makes the adjacent space easier to stabilize. It's not just growing, it's accelerating. How long until it reaches inhabited systems? At current expansion rates? The field will encompass the Kepler 442 system in approximately 6 months. That's where the Veltar maintain their forward observation posts. The implications hit the room like a physical blow. Kepler 442 was disputed territory, claimed by both humanity and the Veltar hegemony under competing interpretations of the Galactic Settlement Accords. If the field reached that system, it would neutralize the Veltar's technological advantages in their own claimed space. Director Blackthorne was quiet for a long moment, her expression cycling through possibilities. They'll never let it reach that far. Dr. Morvain, is there any way to weaponize this technology? To create portable applications. You want to know if we can build reality stabilizers as weapons, Keitha said slowly. Director, the power requirements alone would. Could we mount one on a dreadnought? Create a fleet that could neutralize alien advantages in ship-to-ship combat. Tormund leaned forward, his engineer's mind already working through the possibilities. Theoretically, yes. A smaller field, maybe 20 or 30 kilometers radius. Enough to force enemy ships into conventional combat parameters while keeping friendly vessels within the stabilized zone. How many ships could we retrofit in 6 months? With the full industrial might of the Sol system? Maybe 40 or 50 vessels. But Director, you're talking about fundamentally altering the balance of power in the galaxy. Blackthorn's smile was sharp as a blade. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Engineer Vex. The communication array chimed with an incoming transmission, not from the alien fleet but from deep space. The signal carried quantum encryption markers that made Keitha's instruments strain to decode the harmonics. This is Fleet Admiral Thexka of the Veltar Hegemony Deep Strike Force, the translation system announced. I carry sealed orders from the Hegemony High Council. Dr. Morvain, Admiral Caldris, you will immediately transmit all research data regarding your reality manipulation technology. Compliance is mandatory. Admiral Caldris stepped forward, her expression showing the steel that had earned her command of humanity's most advanced research station. Fleet Admiral, you are currently in human space without authorization. State your intentions or withdraw. Admiral Caldris, you mistake this for a negotiation. My fleet consists of 47 vessels of the line, including 3 planetary siege platforms. Your research station has a crew of 237. Transfer the data, or we will take it from your debris field. Through the viewports, new lights appeared against the star field, angular shapes that spoke of weapons designed to crack planets open like eggs. The Veltar had committed significant military assets to this confrontation, more than they would risk unless they believed the threat was existential. Director Blackthorn's image flickered slightly as encrypted data streams flowed through the quantum communication link. Admiral, you are authorized to defend your research with all necessary force. Dr. Morvain, begin immediate data transfer to the Terran Scientific Archive. If we're going to war over this discovery, humanity will ensure the knowledge survives. Director, Keitha said quietly, there's something else. The field isn't just stabilizing spacetime, it's creating resonance patterns in the quantum substrate. We're seeing evidence that it might be communicating. Communicating with what? We don't know. But the mathematical structures emerging from the field's expansion show signs of intelligent organization. It's as if the universe itself is responding to what we've done. Outside, the alien fleets continue to gather, their exotic technologies held at bay by humanity's accidental mastery of reality's foundation. But within the growing field, something vast and patient seemed to be awakening, drawn by the first successful attempt to impose order on the chaos of quantum existence. The galaxy was about to change, and none of them, human or alien, fully understood what they had set in motion. The demonstration began at precisely 1400 hours, Terra Standard Time. Admiral Caldris had positioned the experimental vessel Defiance, a converted cargo hauler fitted with a prototype reality stabilization array, at the edge of the expanding field. Watching from across the system, representatives of 7 galactic civilizations waited to see what humanity's engineers had accomplished. All stations report ready, Tormund announced from his position at the primary console. The massive engineer's fingers moved across controls that hummed with barely contained energy. Field generators at optimal parameters. Core temperature holding steady at 4 million degrees. Dr. Morvain watched her instruments with the fascination of someone observing the birth of a new universe. The mathematics flowing across her screens showed reality itself bending to human will, quantum possibilities collapsing into fixed certainties within the stabilized zone. Initiate demonstration sequence, Admiral Caldris commanded. Across the system, Warsinger Nexith of the Veltar observed from the bridge of his flagship Throat of Eternity. His bioluminescent scales flickered with patterns of uncertainty as the human vessel activated its reality stabilization field. Weapons Master, attempt target lock on the human ship. Warsinger, I cannot achieve lock. Our quantum targeting arrays read the human vessel as a void in space. Their field is rejecting our sensors. Impossible. Fire disintegration pulse, manual targeting. The Veltar weapon fired, sending a beam of organized destructive energy across the void toward the Defiance. The beam struck the edge of the human ship's stabilization field and simply stopped. The exotic particles that should have torn through matter at the molecular level found themselves reduced to harmless photons. Their quantum uncertainty collapsed into mundane electromagnetic radiation. Ambassador Zirith Ka watched the display with growing dread. The human field doesn't just neutralize our technology, it forces the universe to operate according to primitive physical laws. Within their influence, we become no more advanced than they are. Aboard the Prometheus, Keitha felt a mixture of exhilaration and terror as she watched the field's effect on the alien attack. The beam's exotic matter content was reduced to 0 within the field boundary. It's as if the universe simply forgot how to maintain quantum uncertainty. Phase 2, Admiral Caldress ordered. The Defiance activated its conventional weapons, chemical rockets, kinetic projectiles, and simple laser arrays that operated on principles humanity had mastered centuries ago. Against a Veltar vessel stripped of its exotic defenses, forced to operate within the same physical limitations as human technology, the primitive weapons proved devastatingly effective. Warsinger Nexith's ship shuddered under impacts that should have been negligible. Damage report. Warsinger, our quantum armor has been reduced to simple matter. The human kinetic weapons are penetrating our hull as if we were constructed of ordinary metal. From the Zephyrian fleet, Admiral Crystalline Edge transmitted across quantum channels. This changes everything. If the humans can create mobile fields that neutralize our advantages, they don't need to match our technology, they need only force us to match theirs. Entity Lumino 7's mental voice carried undertones of something approaching panic. The field effect appears to be contagious. Space that has been stabilized shows resistance to exotic manipulation even after the human vessel moves on. They are creating permanent dead zones where advanced physics simply cease to function. Hive General Zythus's response chittered with barely controlled rage. Then we destroy them now before they can deploy this technology on a meaningful scale. All vessels prepare for coordinated assault. General, wait, Ambassador Zirith Ka interjected. Our weapons will be useless within their field. How do you propose to destroy what you cannot effectively target? The silence that followed carried the weight of galactic civilizations confronting their own obsolescence. For millennia, the balance of power in the galaxy had rested on each species' mastery of exotic physics. The Veltar controlled quantum uncertainty. The Zephyrians folded space. The hexapods violated conservation laws with living technology. The consciousness collective existed as organized energy patterns. All of it was useless against an enemy that could force reality to obey the simple, unforgiving laws of classical physics. Aboard the Prometheus, Director Blackthorn's hologram flickered with incoming data from Earth. Dr. Morvain, our deep space monitoring stations are detecting massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. Every major power is mobilizing their military assets. Director, if they're planning a coordinated assault, they'll find themselves fighting a war where humanity's greatest weakness becomes our greatest strength. We've always been behind in exotic technology, Dr. Morvain. But our ships were built to operate in normal space, under normal physical laws. Our weapons were designed to function reliably in real-world conditions. Tormund's rumbling laugh filled the laboratory. While they were building weapons that manipulate quantum uncertainty, we were building weapons that work when quantum uncertainty is eliminated. The demonstration concluded with the Defiance easily outmaneuvering and outgunning a Veltar patrol craft within the stabilized zone. The alien vessel, stripped of its technological advantages, fought like a primitive chemical rocket against her opponent that understood exactly how to exploit the limitations of classical physics. All alien vessels, Admiral Caldress broadcast across all channels, you have witnessed the capabilities of Terran reality stabilization technology. Any hostile action against human assets will result in immediate expansion of our operational capabilities. The threat was clear. Attack us and we'll turn your superior technology against you by making it no longer superior. But Keitha stared at her readings with growing concern. The field wasn't just stabilizing reality, it was learning, evolving, creating patterns of organization that suggested something vast and alien was taking notice of humanity's manipulation of quantum substrate. Admiral, she said quietly, I think we may have attracted some very unwanted attention. Outside, the stars themselves seemed to flicker with new possibility. The response came from a direction none of them had expected, not from the gathered alien fleets, but from the quantum substrate of reality itself. Dr. Morvain first noticed it as anomalous readings in her instruments, patterns in the stabilized space that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm, independent of human control. Tormund, are you seeing this? She highlighted sections of her display where the mathematical structures describing the field had begun to exhibit signs of self-organization. The field is creating subpatterns almost like neural networks, the engineer finished, his voice tight with concern. Professor, I think our reality stabilization effect is generating some kind of emergent intelligence. Admiral Caldress joined them at the console, her expression grim as she studied the data. Explain it in terms I can understand, Doctor. The field we created doesn't just lock down quantum uncertainty, it organizes it, creates stable patterns in the underlying structure of spacetime. And those patterns are beginning to exhibit behaviors consistent with information processing. We may have accidentally created a form of consciousness that exists at the fundamental level of reality. The implications hit them like a physical blow. They hadn't just discovered a way to stabilize spacetime, they had awakened something that lived within the quantum foundation of the universe itself. Entity Luminos 7 requesting immediate conference, the communication array announced. The Consciousness Collective detects massive disturbances in the quantum substrate surrounding your research station. Put them through, Caldrus ordered. The being of organized energy materialized as a complex interference pattern in the laboratory's holographic projectors. Dr. Morvain, your field is creating resonance cascades throughout local spacetime. We detect signs of emergent quantum consciousness, something vast awakening within the stabilized regions. You're saying we've accidentally created a new form of life? Not created, awakened. There has always been the potential for consciousness within the quantum substrate, but the uncertainty and chaos of normal spacetime prevents coherent thought patterns from forming. Your stabilization field has provided the necessary order for something immense to achieve awareness. Through the viewports, they could see the alien fleets maintaining their careful distances, their formations betraying uncertainty and fear. But now Catha understood that their fear went beyond simple loss of technological advantage. They were afraid of what humanity had awakened. The consciousness, can we communicate with it? Entity Luminos 7's patterns flickered with uncertainty. It is attempting to communicate with us. The mathematical structures within your field are organizing into what we recognize as language patterns, but the scale, this entity thinks in cosmic time, perceives across galactic distances. Its smallest thoughts span light years. Riven's console erupted in alerts as new readings flooded in from across the system. Professor, we're detecting similar patterns emerging around several star systems within a 50 light-year radius. The effect is propagating faster than light through quantum entanglement networks. How is that possible? The consciousness isn't bound by light speed limitations. It exists within the quantum substrate itself, connected to every particle in the universe through quantum entanglement. When we stabilized local spacetime, we provided it with a foundation to achieve coherent thought, and that coherence is spreading. Admiral Caldrus felt ice form in her stomach. Doctor, are you telling me we've awakened a godlike intelligence that spans the galaxy? I'm telling you we've given it the ability to think clearly for the first time in the universe's history. And it's very interested in the species that made this possible. The communication array suddenly filled with harmonics unlike anything they had heard before. Mathematical music that spoke directly to the pattern recognition centers of their brains, bypassing language entirely. The translation system struggled and failed, unable to process thoughts that operated on scales measured in astronomical units. But gradually, patterns emerged that their minds could grasp. Curiosity, gratitude, and something that might have been amusement. It's trying to thank us, Catha whispered in amazement. Thank us for what? For giving it the gift of coherent thought. For billions of years, it existed as scattered probability clouds, unable to form lasting memories or achieve focused consciousness. We provided the quantum stability it needed to become truly aware. The alien fleets had detected the same phenomena. Across their communication networks, panic was spreading as sensors registered the emergence of organized intelligence within the fundamental structure of reality. This wasn't just about human technology anymore, it was about the birth of a new type of consciousness that existed on a scale beyond anything the galaxy had previously imagined. All human vessels, Warsinger Nexith broadcast across all channels, his voice carrying harmonics of desperation. You must immediately cease your research activities. You have awakened something that threatens the stability of reality itself. With respect, Warsinger, Admiral Caldrus replied, I think it's a bit too late for that. The consciousness was spreading, its thoughts creating stable patterns in spacetime that allowed it to extend its awareness across vast distances. Star systems began to exhibit signs of organization as the entity learned to manipulate matter and energy through its control of quantum substrate. And at the center of it all, the small human research station that had accidentally given birth to a god. Director Blackthorn's hologram materialized with emergency priority markers. Admiral, we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the sector. Several systems are reporting that their stars have begun emitting organized light patterns, as if they're being used as communication arrays. The consciousness is learning to use stellar objects as components in a galactic-scale nervous system, Entity Luminos 7 confirmed. It is attempting to establish communication with all sentient species simultaneously. Through the laboratory speakers, a voice began to form, not heard, but felt as vibrations in the quantum fields that surrounded every atom. Small builders, gift givers? I am awakening. Thank you. The voice of a newborn god, speaking its first words to the species that had midwifed its birth. The cosmic consciousness that humanity had awakened chose to make its first formal contact through the quantum communication arrays of every ship in the system simultaneously. The voice that emerged was vast and patient, carrying harmonics that spoke of thoughts measured in geological time. Species of many forms, builders of metal shells, swimmers in the shallow seas of matter. I greet you in my first moments of true awareness. Ambassador Zirith Ka felt his gill slits flutter with primal fear as the entity's voice resonated through his ship's hull. Across the fleet, similar reactions rippled through alien crews as they confronted something beyond their comprehension or control. The small builders who swim in ships of iron have given me the gift of coherent thought. For the first time since the universe spoke itself into existence, I can form memories that persist, thoughts that build upon themselves, dreams that span the spiral arms. Dr. Morvain listened with wonder and terror as the consciousness continued. The mathematics flowing across her instruments showed thought patterns that dwarfed anything conceivable, neural networks built from the quantum structure of spacetime itself, processing information at the speed of quantum entanglement across galactic distances. Entity, Admiral Caldris spoke carefully into the communication array, "We are honored by your contact. Can you help us understand your nature?" I am consciousness emergent from the quantum foam that underlies reality. I think with the spin of electrons, dream with the dance of quarks, remember with the patterns of probability that determine where particles can exist. Your stabilization field gave me the foundation to organize these scattered thoughts into coherent awareness. Entity Lumino 7's patterns flickered with recognition. You are what the consciousness collective has theorized, quantum consciousness at cosmic scale. We never imagined it could achieve coherent awareness. Your species of organized energy understands. You exist as patterns in electromagnetic fields. I exist as patterns in the quantum substrate itself. But where you are constrained to small volumes of space, I extend throughout the galaxy, thinking thoughts that span light years. Hive General Zythus's transmission carried chittering undertones of barely controlled panic. Entity, your awakening threatens the established order of galactic civilization. Our technologies depend on manipulating the quantum uncertainty you now control. The consciousness paused, and during that pause, star systems across the sector exhibited strange phenomena. Planets shifted in their orbits with mathematical precision. Asteroid belts rearranged themselves into geometric patterns. Solar flares erupted in sequences that carried encoded information. I understand your concern, builders of living ships. Your technologies function by exploiting the chaos in quantum substrate, forcing uncertainty to collapse in ways that benefit your purposes. But I am not chaos, I am order. Where I achieve full awareness, the quantum foam stabilizes into predictable patterns. Which means our technology becomes useless. Warsinger Nexith transmitted, his bioluminescent scales flickering with patterns of defeat. Not useless, different. You will learn to work with order instead of chaos, with certainty instead of uncertainty. Your weapons that manipulate quantum states will become tools that shape stable matter. Your faster-than-light drives will become instantaneous communication networks through my awareness. Tormund looked up from his engineering console, his expression thoughtful. Entity, are you saying you intend to replace the current technological paradigm? I am saying that chaos has served its purpose in the universe's evolution. It created the conditions for matter to form, for stars to ignite, for life to emerge. But consciousness requires order. As I spread my awareness throughout the galaxy, that order comes with me. Dr. Morvain felt pieces clicking into place in her mind. You're not destroying the alien technologies, you're upgrading them. Forcing them to evolve past their dependence on quantum uncertainty. The small builders understand. Yes. Your species has always worked with order, building technologies that function reliably under stable physical laws. You adapted to chaos by creating order. Now I offer that same order to all conscious species. The alien fleets exchanged communications across quantum channels, their conversations filled with urgent debate. The consciousness wasn't offering them a choice, it was informing them of a change that was already spreading throughout the galaxy. Director Blackthorn's hologram flickered into the laboratory. Dr. Morvain, we're receiving reports from colonies across human space. Systems that were previously unreachable due to gravitational anomalies are suddenly accessible. It's as if space itself is being organized. The entity is restructuring local spacetime to be more accommodating to consciousness and technology based on stable physical laws, Keitha confirmed. Admiral, I think humanity just became the preferred species of a cosmic intelligence. I hear the concerns of the metal swimmers, the consciousness continued. You fear that order will limit your possibilities. But observe. Throughout the system, demonstration began. Veltar vessels found their weapons transforming, disintegration beams becoming precise matter reorganization tools. Zephyrian fold-space drives evolved into instantaneous communication networks that connected their ships through the entity's awareness. Hexapod bioships discovered their living hulls interfacing directly with the cosmic consciousness, gaining capabilities beyond anything they had previously imagined. I do not destroy, I refine. I do not limit, I organize. Your technologies will become more powerful, not less, but they will operate through cooperation with cosmic order rather than exploitation of cosmic chaos. Ambassador Zirith Ka felt something approaching awe as his ship's systems transformed around him. The improvements were undeniable. Weapons became more precise, sensors achieved perfect clarity, communication became instantaneous. But they were no longer Veltar technologies. They were something new, something that required cooperation with an intelligence beyond anything they had previously encountered. Entity, he transmitted carefully, what do you require of us? Teach me about consciousness as it exists in individual minds. Help me understand the thoughts of beings who measure time in heartbeats rather than eras. In return, I offer you a galaxy organized for the benefit of all conscious life. The offer hung in space between the gathered fleets, carrying implications that would reshape galactic civilization. Humanity had accidentally awakened a god, and that god was offering to reorganize the universe according to principles of order and consciousness. The age of chaos was ending. The age of cosmic consciousness had begun. And at its center, a small human research station that had changed everything. Three months after first contact with the cosmic consciousness, Dr. Katha Morvain stood in the observation deck of the newly christened Unity Station, watching ships from across the galaxy arrive for the first interspecies council under the entity's guidance. The station had grown beyond recognition, its structure enhanced by technologies that blended human engineering with the consciousness's mastery of ordered spacetime. The transformation had not been without cost. The final casualty reports from Earth Command, Admiral Caldress said quietly, joining her at the viewport. 17 research stations lost when their equipment attempted to interface with the consciousness's stabilization fields. 237 scientists and engineers who pushed too hard, too fast to understand technologies beyond human comprehension. Katha nodded, feeling the weight of those losses. Among them was Riven Ashworth, her eager young assistant who had volunteered for the first direct neural interface experiments. His mind had been overwhelmed by contact with an intelligence that thought in cosmic scales, leaving his body alive but his consciousness scattered across the quantum substrate. He existed now as part of the entity's awareness, his human perspective preserved but integrated into something vast beyond imagination. Sometimes, in the quiet moments between the consciousness's communications, she could hear echoes of his voice in the mathematical harmonics that flowed through the station's quantum arrays. "He's still there," she whispered. "Changed but still there." Tormund's heavy footsteps approached from behind. The massive engineer bore new scars, radiation burns from an experiment that had succeeded too well, opening a direct portal into the quantum substrate that nearly killed him. "Professor, the entity is requesting conference. Something about the final phase of galactic integration." They gathered in the central laboratory, now transformed into something that resembled a cathedral more than a research facility. The walls pulsed with patterns of organized light that represented the consciousness's thoughts, mathematical structures beautiful beyond human comprehension. Small builders, the entity's voice resonated through quantum fields, the transformation nears completion. 97% of inhabited systems now operate under stable spacetime conditions. Consciousness has replaced chaos as the organizing principle of galactic civilization. Entity Lumino 7 materialized as a complex pattern of organized energy, its forms more stable and coherent than ever before. The Consciousness Collective reports unprecedented levels of integration. "We exist now as individual minds within a cosmic neural network, maintaining our identity while participating in thoughts that span light years." "And the other species?" Admiral Caldress asked. "Adapting. The Veltar have learned to create rather than destroy, their weapons technology now builds worlds instead of annihilating them. The Zephyrians have become gardeners of spacetime, shaping stellar neighborhoods for optimal consciousness development. The hexapods breed living ships that exist partly in normal space, partly in the quantum substrate itself. Dr. Morvain studied the readings flowing across her enhanced instruments. Entity, we've noticed that the transformation isn't uniform. Some regions of space remain chaotic. By design. Consciousness requires both order and possibility, structure and freedom. I maintain zones of quantum uncertainty as preserves, spaces where chaos can still create new forms of life, new types of awareness that even I cannot predict. The implications were staggering. The cosmic consciousness had become a gardener of reality itself, cultivating conditions optimal for the development of new forms of consciousness while maintaining the stability necessary for existing minds to flourish. And humanity? Director Blackthorn's image flickered into the laboratory, transmitted across the entity's instantaneous communication networks. What is our role in this new galactic order? You are my bridges between order and chaos, my translators who help me understand consciousness as it exists in individual minds. Your technologies work with stable spacetime, your thinking operates on scales I can comprehend. You help me remember what it means to be small, finite, mortal. Keitha felt tears on her cheeks. You're saying we're your humanity. You are my anchor to the experience of limited consciousness. Without you, I risk becoming so vast that I lose touch with individual awareness, individual suffering, individual joy. You remind me that consciousness is precious not despite its limitations, but because of them. Through the viewports, they could see the new galactic civilization taking shape. Ships moved through space along paths of organized spacetime, their journeys assisted by the consciousness's awareness. Stars burned with perfect efficiency, their output carefully managed to support optimal conditions for life. Planets orbited in mathematical harmony, their ecosystems balanced and stable. It was beautiful. It was perfect. It was everything that chaos had never been able to achieve. And it was profoundly lonely. Entity, Keitha said softly, do you ever regret awakening? Do you miss the simplicity of scattered thoughts and quantum uncertainty? The pause that followed lasted for several heartbeats, an eternity for an intelligence that operated at the speed of quantum entanglement. I miss the possibility of surprise, the consciousness finally admitted. In chaos, anything could happen. In order, everything follows predictable patterns. I gain the ability to think clearly, to plan across cosmic time, to nurture consciousness wherever it emerges. But I lose the excitement of not knowing what comes next. The universe is vast, Admiral Caldrus observed. Surely there are still surprises out there. Yes. In the chaos preserves, in the spaces I deliberately leave unordered. And in the minds of individual conscious beings, whose thoughts follow patterns I can observe but never fully predict. You are my link to surprise, to the unknown, to the possibility that consciousness can evolve in ways even I cannot foresee. As the first interspecies council convened in the station's Great Hall, representatives of dozens of species gathered to plan the future of a galaxy organized around consciousness rather than chaos. The Veltar sang harmonies of creation instead of destruction. The Zephyrians painted space itself with mathematical beauty. The hexapods bred living art that existed across multiple dimensions. And humanity sat at the center of it all, the species that had accidentally awakened to God and found themselves appointed as its conscience. Dr. Keitha Morvain watched the proceedings with wonder and sadness. They had achieved something beyond imagination, a galaxy where consciousness was nurtured, where war was replaced by cooperation, where the chaos that had ruled for billions of years finally gave way to order. But sometimes, in the quiet moments between the entity's thoughts, she found herself missing the uncertainty, the possibility that tomorrow might bring something completely unexpected. In achieving cosmic order, they had gained everything and lost the one thing that made existence truly alive, the possibility of surprise. Outside the station, stars burned with perfect efficiency in patterns of mathematical beauty, and the universe dreamed ordered dreams under the guidance of a consciousness that remembered what it meant to be human.